I request everyone to kindly settle down. Please take your seats. Good morning. A very warm welcome to all the esteemed dignitaries, respected officials, and honored guests. On behalf of Confederation of Indian Industry, it is my privilege to welcome you all to the CII Annual Business Summit 2025. The theme this year, Building Trust, India First, reflects our collective commitment to national priorities through collaboration, innovation, and
Yes, the time is now, and the place is here. The resource use around the world has been doubling more or less every 20 years. It slowed down a bit because of the concerns we're talking about today, but from 1950 to the year 2000, we had more than doubled the use of resources around the world, and India was a part of that process. It showed up in better livelihoods, better material quality of life, between living standards. But did it have an impact, a positive impact on the lives of everyone? One has to ask those questions too. I have been engaged very in-depth work on both resource efficiency and circular economy, which are two concepts which are basically similar but not the same. Resource efficiency is really a response to the need to conserve resources, partly for future generations, but partly because the use of resources entails a lot of environmental and social impacts. And in order to reduce those environmental and social impacts, which are quite negative, you need to reduce the amount of resources you extract from Mother Earth. So one part of it is a question of resource efficiency. In order to achieve resource efficiency, we have the principles of circular economy, which are all the 9 or 10 R's you know about: recycling, reuse, reject, remanufacture, and other things like that. So the circular economy basically makes a positive contribution to thinking about how we can conserve resources, to decouple, if you like, between the GDP growth and resource use. And in order to do that, the idea is basically to open up new economic opportunities, new business opportunities. We have certain impediments to those. For example, the legal system in India at the moment makes it very difficult to go in for remanufacturing, because there's a feeling in the minds of lawmakers that we would be subject to exploitation by advanced countries sending old equipment which needs to be remanufactured. But remanufacturing is probably one of the best ways to achieve the goals of circularity. Remanufacturing means that a machine is designed in such a way that when it starts breaking down, it can be sent back to the manufacturer, who will then improve it to the current standards and sell it as a new machine. And this is a wonderful way of reducing materials. Probably the best way to reduce materials is miniaturization. You all know what has happened in the field of computers. When I did my PhD some 50 years ago, my computer probably filled just about this hall at the university. Now, I carry in my pocket something that's even more powerful here, and that's called miniaturization. And a very large part of resource efficiency depends on doing that. Probably the only thing that is better than that is product life extension. The durability of products. If your car works for 10 years instead of 5, you've halved the amount of resources used. So basically, there are ways in which you can manage your circularity requirements by very simple technological means. Miniaturization, product life extension, and varieties of other things that you can do, in addition to the 8 or 9 R's that we all have. Recycling is, of course, a very obvious one, and we know a lot about that. The problem with the circular economy, in my opinion, is that it does not adequately address the social issues. It's actually a really straightforward environmental concern to reduce the impact on the environment, but it does not look at what happens when you introduce circular economy measures to the poor, to the women, to the disabled, and all the others. The equity issues are not at the moment adequately addressed, and I'm on a one-man mission to try and get them incorporated in our circular economy thinking. Circular economy should not be an imposition by law or by regulation. It should be internalized in the work of every unit, every business, every organization. And in that case, in order to internalize it, we need a common understanding of what it means. Job creation is just as important as resource efficiency. And so when we talk about circular economy, we need to keep in mind what happens to people. The example that I often give, which is in India an unpopular example, and you may find it distasteful, but the example that we need to keep in mind is the Green Revolution. The Green Revolution was about resource efficiency, circular economy, and increased production with what we had. Unfortunately, embedded in the technology of the Green Revolution were issues that we did not adequately incorporate in our design of that. So you have a situation where a wonderful economy like the state of Punjab in the mid-50s was probably at the top of the list of states in terms of economic development, is now close to the bottom in many ways, with tremendous health problems, job-related unemployment problems, youth and crime and drugs problems, and of course we know a lot about the cancer and all the other diseases that have been caused. So there was not adequate attention in the 1950s. There was a tremendous attention, and justifiably, the Green Revolution saved the country, of course, from starvation. And it was a very, very important measure that was introduced. But with it came so many negative impacts that one has to wonder whether we could have avoided many of them with appropriate adjustment in the technology. The Green Revolution implied capital intensification. It implied the consolidation of land. It implied a variety of technological measures, particularly mechanization, and the use of chemicals, very large use of chemicals. And if we had thought about these things, some of those could have been avoided. And this is basically what I think the future of both India and the world needs, which is what I would call a mechanism for foresight, a mechanism for assessment, a mechanism to which business can go and say, I have a proposition to make palm oil here, or I have a proposition to dig over there, and what would be the negative impacts? And there are some negative impacts, as in the case of Punjab, that are not acceptable. The fact that we have such a high incidence of cancer, for example, had we known that in 1965, I don't think that Dr. Swaminathan and Mr. C. Subramaniam would have made the same decisions had they been informed that these are also possible outcomes. There's many ways to increase agricultural productivity, and Green Revolution is only one of them. And we need now to learn how to incorporate in our thinking, integrate centrally in our thinking, at the business level as well as at the government level and the civil society level, what are the things that are going to go wrong as well as the things that are desirable. And I'm afraid we don't have those mechanisms. We need now to figure out a way that we have very solid scientific, objective inputs to our decision making. And we've got to think it through. Does it have to be advisory committee to the advisory group to the parliament, or to the ministry, or to the whole government system? It's at time now really to make some hard decisions about what is good and what is bad about progress, and basically keep in mind the Gandhian last person as one way to deal with, is it a good thing to do or not? And if it's not going to improve the life of a very poor person and on the contrary have a bad effect, then probably we should have a mechanism to say, no, that's not going to work. These are hard decisions, and right now, of course, in our current situation where the whole world is opening up to Indian manufacturing and Indian contributions to the global economy, it's very hard to say, no, you shouldn't do this. But if you're going to repent 30 years later in the way we have now got to repent a little bit about, not a little, quite a lot, about the Green Revolution, then we should avoid those measures. And I know of many things that we're doing which are going to have a massive, massive negative impact on our children's lives and certainly on their children's life. So this is a question, when we talk about the circular economy, we now need to remember that it's all about sustainability. It's all about the Sustainable Development Goals, which require forward thinking. So I leave you with the message that we now need mechanisms at the business level, at the government level, at the legislative level, to say this is going to be the cost of what you're going to do. Because we are now looking only at the benefits, and that's not enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that was a very holistic approach, but my takeaways out of that really was four words basically: shrink space, extend time. I mean, as an engineer, I can understand that, how to become more sustainable. Eva, I think if you look at Netherlands, they've shrunk the space, they've extended time. They're second largest exporter of food in the world, and there are examples from Europe. Over to you for what's a European perspective.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I know that I am in a business environment, so time is the money, and there is this big clock ticking. So let me just say that within the next 10 minutes, I will share with you a perspective of the European Union. Now, it's a little bit of challenge to speak after such a distinguished guest who have said a lot of important things, but let me try and let me share with you perspective of the European Union. So what I will say in next 10 minutes will be basically why the EU is committed to circular economy, how it is committed, what is the way forward foreseen by the EU in this domain, and what does the EU commitment to circular economy mean for the EU and India relation. Ladies and gentlemen, circular economy, recycling and resource efficiency drive diversification, reduce dependencies, support climate action, and preserve biodiversity while reducing the high cost caused by pollution. No doubt, the circular economy is vital for the EU's competitiveness. This is why the EU has been firmly integrating its principles into its policies. I'm not sure, but maybe you know something what's called strategic autonomy. Strategic autonomy is one of the EU's objectives. The EU strategic autonomy refers to the European Union ability to act independently and decisively in key areas affecting its economic, technological, security, and geopolitical interests without excessive reliance on external powers. The circular economy is, in fact, important for Europe's security. The EU can achieve strategic autonomy if we manage to reduce dependence on external resources. Dependence on external resources can be minimalized if EU focuses on sustainability and resource efficiency. The following would be the areas relevant to circular economy and green tech for the EU: ensuring secure access to recycled and critical materials within the EU, building independent capacity in renewable energy technologies, promoting green innovation that reduce external dependencies, strengthening EU supplies chains for sustainable products. In its undertaking, EU has been moving from the linear take, make, use, dispose model to a regenerative growth model focused on keeping materials in use for as long as possible in order to keep resource consumption within the boundaries. And here maybe I will make a reference to what Shombi has said, which indeed we have not found yet the new world. We are on the quest for the new world, but because we have the planet, and it's our planet, we need to take care of it. So the EU's policy framework is presented in Circular Economy Action Plan of March 2020, which sets out the progressive rollout of sustainable product policy framework. It focuses on key value chains as a matter of priority, including electronics and ICT, batteries and vehicles, packaging, plastics, textiles, constructions and buildings, food, water, and nutrition. So why the EU is committed to circular economy? As mentioned, circular economy contributes to reduction of costs. It's been mentioned just by Dr. Ashok. It reduces waste, it creates jobs, and enhances resource security, all elements that are critical for long-term competitiveness and climate goals. As I mentioned, circular economy is vital for the EU competitiveness. We just talked about the jobs and need to find the jobs, and what the circular economy offers is job opportunity. I would even tend to say that it's a gold mine of opportunities. The Competitiveness Compass, a key EU policy document adopted by the European Commission at the end of January 2025, sets out the direction for the coming years. It focuses on the innovation gap, competitiveness, decarbonization, and economic security. Circularity fits all these 4 building blocks. It's innovative, it's good for the business, it reduces dependency on third countries, and it helps the EU's climate and environmental objectives. This is why the EU is committed to circular economy. Now let me say a few words about how we are committed. This is very easy. The EU's commitment to circular economy is showcased through EU funding and innovation support, through collaboration with partners, through encouraging businesses to innovate, build resilient supply chains, and meet growing global sustainability demands, through policy frameworks to enable business. Let me say a few words on policy framework yet to come. The EU's Circular Economy and Action Plan of 2020 and Competitiveness Compass of 2025, I mentioned, provide clear policy guidance and tools to help industry transition successfully while maintaining competitiveness. In 2026, so next year, the European Commission intends to present a legislative proposal on Circular Economy Act, addressing the issue of circularity across the entire EU economy with a focus on 3 pillars: innovation, decarbonization and competitiveness, as well as reinforcing our economic security. Let me say a few words about each of the pillars. So first, innovation. Circular innovation takes many forms in product design, in business models, in production, in system, and in technology. For the businesses to be circular, public sector needs to develop the right framework conditions, the right industrial ecosystems, the right lead markets, for example, by using public procurement and target financings. This will lead to innovation. Second pillar, decarbonization and competitiveness. The EU economy relies on 8 billion tons of raw materials each year. Only less than 12% of this demand is fulfilled by recycled materials. An average factory in the EU spends twice as much money on raw materials as it does on labor. This clearly impacts competitiveness. What about climate? In Europe, circular approaches could deliver up to 25% of EU climate targets. Obviously, this goes beyond just the concept of recycling. Europe needs to keep materials in their highest value for as long as possible. It needs to focus on sectors that can bring about the change, for example, in waste management. Third pillar, reinforcing EU economic security. Resource dependency is one of the biggest challenges for the EU security. A significant proportion of 8 billion tons of materials used in the EU comes from the outside of the EU. Why? Because it's cheaper, because we don't have them, and because demand for them is on the constant rise. Critical raw materials are a good example. The demand for critical minerals for the clean transition has already doubled in the past 5 years, and it will further increase. To respond to that, Europe needs to diversify its suppliers, and it needs to find alternative materials or engage in recycling. Products containing valuable and scarce materials should be used and reused as long as possible before they become waste. The EU Circular Economy Act may support a more sustainable, competitive and resilient Europe by closing material loops, cutting emissions, creating jobs, and securing resource supply, all key to the EU Green Deal and climate neutrality ambitions. Entry into force of the EU Circular Economy Act will have an impact on our partners through new business opportunities with increased demand for recycled materials and green tech, need to relook into the EU rules on recyclability, eco-design, and sustainability in order to enter the EU market, through also encouraging partners to adopt circular practices and improve product standards, as well as through encouraging partners to strengthen circular economy policies. This leads me to my last question. How does EU-India cooperate on circular economy? EU and India drive circular economy transitions. There are several examples where EU and India cooperate. They both support International Global Plastic Treaty, and both are part of Global Alliance on Circular Economy and Resource Efficiency. During February 2025, Trade and Technology Council of EU and India agreed on joint research cooperation through coordinated calls on marine plastic litter. This cooperation derives from policy documents signed by India and EU. In 2020, EU and India adopted a joint declaration on resource efficiency and circular economy, which in turn led to the establishment of the EU-India Resource Efficiency and Circular Economy Partnership. The partnership fosters exchange of experiences between EU member states and India, including institutional and financial mechanisms, examining ecosystem and information tools and capacities, as well as providing technical assistance relating to activities at national and international level. The RECE partnership, the objective of which is to support and strengthen dialogue and cooperation between EU and India in areas of resource efficiency and circular economy, is supported by the EU Resource Efficiency and Circular Economy Initiative for India project. This project will support the various stakeholders at national, state, and city level, something that has already also been mentioned with the previous speaker. They will support in resource efficiency and circular economy, including through policy implementation, industry collaboration, and SME engagement. At present, EU and India is well into phase 3 of the initiative of the EU RECEI, which focuses on developing developing technologies, business solutions, and financing mechanisms through collaborative research and strategic exchanges, targeting key areas such as textiles, e-vehicles, batteries, plastic packaging, and electronics. It specifically supports reduce, reuse, repurpose model, mobile textile waste collection and sorting units, thus facilitating the establishment of micro-repurposing centers. The project is implemented with a project partner. These interventions enhance local entrepreneurship, empower women self-group self-help groups, and promote sustainable management of textile waste, aligning closely with India's national priorities for resource efficiency and waste reduction. EU works closely with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change on piloting the initiative, Sustainable Solutions, together with the SMEs, financing institutions, and other private sectors in India. To conclude, circular economy connects us all, European Union and India, public and private sectors. We share challenges and we look for solutions that can be beneficial not just for us individually, but also globally and for generations to come. In 2025, with ongoing FTA negotiations, recent EU college visit, and further strengthening of EU-India relations, business case for circular economy, I think may also mean unlocking circular value through the dynamic and further enhanced collaboration between the EU and India. Thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you, Eva. That was wonderful. I think as we progress towards the FTA, which I hope does get concluded fast, these things will get an acceleration. To my two colleagues, Masood and Ruturaj, I'm going to ask you to don the hat of ChatGPT or Gemini and give your talk in 5 minutes briefly. Huh? So let me start with Masood. Just the way Gemini gives a short script, just to do one for us.
Thanks. I think a lot has been said already. So let me just start by putting some numbers in front of you. 300,000 tons per day in urban India alone. That's what we used to call feedstock earlier. Yeah? Now it's a full-fledged industry. Now this is with about 350 grams per person per day as our per capita generation. You heard about what the situation in Europe, the opportunities, etc. I want to actually talk a little bit about the opportunities in India and what does that mean. It's not just an environmental issue. I think that much is very, very clear. You heard from the previous speakers. It's not just about the fact that we are, 17, 18% of the world's population and just 2.5% of the world's land area, and therefore, where is the land for all these landfills and all these mountains of waste that sort of surround us in this very city? It's not just about the communities that are affected by pollution, the public health issues, etc. It's also about the economic opportunity. So again, very quickly, Gemini style. Circular economy opportunity for India represents a 40% material reduction in the next 25 years. A 40% reduction in materials. Just imagine what that does to your industry, to your margins, to your own sustainability. The other metric that I want to put in front of you is the carbon metric. Circular economy by 2050 represents 44% lower GHG emissions as an opportunity for India. 44% reduction through circular economy initiatives. Water usage in construction by 25%, water usage in other sectors like agriculture by half, by 50%. That is the reduction possibility. That's the scale of the opportunity in front of us. 71% lower fertilizer use. That's what circular economy represents. I'll not even talk about the strategic imperatives. I'll not talk about the fact that, as a country that imports 80% of its oil and therefore 80% of its plastics, what we do with our plastics today just doesn't make commercial sense, strategic sense, economic sense, or environmental sense. Or the fact that how will we talk about, moving into a green mobility future when 100% of our lithium, 100% of our cobalt, 100% of our manganese, 100% of our nickel is imported. I'll just talk about the fact that the opportunity is here and now, and to take on from the previous speakers, CII has made a very bold beginning through the National Circular Economy Framework. We have taken the best we could from international frameworks, but we have looked at the challenges in India, the opportunities in India. The National Circular Economy Framework is now in its second edition, focused on 16 materials, and we are talking about $500 billion worth of business opportunity by 2030, not 2050, by 2030. But this requires investment at scale. This requires integration. Most of recycling and resource recovery in India is at the cottage scale. It is, it's happening in backyard shops. This is the sunrise sector of today. I think I'll close by saying that the SDGs are truly important for the whole world. But as somebody who's been active in this space for the last 3 decades, I think, I actually sometimes fear that the SDGs will either succeed or fail for the whole world here in India. What we do, and specifically what India Inc. does through its focus on circular economy and investment at scale, will probably determine whether we decouple our consumption and with our economic development, or we don't. The opportunity is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Masood. That was a very passionate call for India to take responsibility, to start moving the needle, not say that we want to compete with others on resource utilization, but want to compete with others on resource minimization. And you gave a lot of facts, 40%, 25, 50, 71%, pick a number. Every sector is going to reduce the usage. But the main thing you said, very impactful, is move from cottage type sector to industrial scale sector. I think that's a big clarion call for the entire industry. Now, back to my friend from the industry, Huhtamaki, big packaging giant. 5-minute primer on what we should do, what we should sort of emphasize more. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm now looking at the clock now, which says 3:28, puts a lot of pressure, but I'm going to make it as soon, let's say, as simple as possible. I represent Huhtamaki. Sounds Japanese. It's not Japanese. It's a Finnish packaging company. We're about 4.5 billion euro packaging company. I represent the sustainability as the Vice President of Sustainability, Marketing, and Business Development for the company, right? And when we say plastic packaging, it suddenly gets associated with saying, oh, you are the problem. But here I want to come and say that there is a good news. This session's thing here says, what are the key challenges and what are the opportunities in advancing circular economy? And I'm here on behalf of the plastic industry, not only in India, but also in the world, to say that there is a solution, and the solution is simple. What is it? Let's understand where the situation comes from. Packaging. So all of us got up in this morning and used toothpaste, right? That's packaging. After that, we went to our favorite cup of chai or coffee. We bought our milk. We bought our coffee. That's packaging. Then we had our biscuits. Let's say somebody likes Britannia biscuits. That comes in packaging. At the end of the day, we will again go back and maybe have a favorite cup of snack, coffee with a snack. It's packaging. So the point that I'm trying to make here is packaging touches each and every aspect and hour of the day that we have. Now let's question this. Can we also function without packaging? In a country like India, I'm pretty happy and very confident to say that packaging is an enabler to economy. We are in Delhi. Let's go to Meerut. Let's go on our ways to Uttar Pradesh. On every small kasbah, there is an economic activity happening because there is a small sachet of 1 rupee, 2 rupee that is making the packaging product available. If there is no packaging of 1 or 2 rupee, there is no product that's available. So packaging is an enabler to growth. Packaging is an enabler to economy. Okay? Having said that, of course, there is a challenge because the packaging that's getting used today is a non-recyclable packaging. And there is a fairly large a group based in Europe, Ellen MacArthur Foundation, who has made a very bold claim that if packaging waste is not managed properly in the next by 2050, just 25 years later, there'll be more plastic in the sea than fish. It's a very bold claim to make. And the way we are going, when I say we, not only India, the global packaging industry, and more importantly, the waste management, that theme is likely to be true. Having said that, that is where we go from linear to circular. That the theme is about circular packaging, right? So the situation is this: because packaging is not managed very well, how many of us segregate the waste in our house? How many of us segregate the waste and give it to the government body? How many of us actually know what happens to the waste? Because we see in the border of Delhi that there is a waste dump which is taller than the Qutub Minar. That's the reality. That is because there is a recycling stream that is available, but it's not respected. Now, I really want to go very quickly to this. What do we mean by a circular packaging solution? And here I have a very good example. All of us see garbage on the streets, but all of us, none of us will ever find a doodh ka thaili, a milk sachet into a garbage. Why? Because it is made of a material called polyethylene, which is circular. It is picked up, it is collected, it is recycled. There is an economic value to the waste. Because there is an economic value to waste, the garbage collector has a reason to pick it up, and it does not happen for, let's say, a Nescafe sachet or, let's say, a Unilever shampoo. And we are manufacturing it for the big CPG companies. Having said that, we are also part of the problem. Now, the good news that I was going to say is that for everything that's there, we are working, and there are solutions available in India, all over the world, to make it circular. What does it mean? That means you collect it and you bring it back. That is what the circular economy that we are talking about. And here, I'm also happy to say that CII, along with the launch of the India Plastic Pact, has taken a huge step in defining the rules of packaging. That means what should be the packaging that should come in our country, which is recyclable. How should it be manufactured? What kind of, let's say, barrier performance, sorry, not to trying to get too much technical, but it's important. What kind of barrier performance should it have? And what should be the nature of the packaging that comes onto the market? So the point here is that if we are all willing, it's possible. And now I come to my last point. This is a value chain problem. None of us can solve the problem individually. We are a packaging company, then we talk to the big CPGs, the Nestlés, the Unilever, the Mondelez of the world. We all have to work together, and two people, one at the start of the chain, one at the end of the chain, have a very big role to play. All of us are consumers. So there is a role on us also that we must segregate our packaging as it is used in our households, give it to the recyclers. And there comes the second part of the value chain. We need to have enough recycling capability and capacity, and that is what the point my honest panel holder was also making. The point here is the waste problem that we see is a result of the linear economy. The good news that I am again wanting to emphasize that there are circular solutions available, and if the value chain is willing to put that effort, and we as a company are willing to put that effort, because we are a packaging company and we have developed recyclable solutions for practically every product, including as complicated a product as a baby food. That one. With that, I want to thank everybody, and thank you, CII, for giving us the opportunity, and really thankful for the time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ruturaj. That was a very, very fast, rapid-fire response from a plastic. Yeah, thank you so much. And I think, सबका सुझाव है शून्य से सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी वो सर्कल में है, तो उसमें आप लोग जरा ध्यान दीजिए वापस जाके. और your key points were, it's a value chain problem, collaboration is critical. I think what you have said, Masood, is that move from cottage to industrial scale, and India is key for moving the needle. You said 3 pillars: innovation, competitiveness, and economic security. I would add the fourth one on behalf of Ashok here, saying social inclusion. Maybe that gets added in EU, because you spoke a bit about social inclusion. And one of your key messages which I took away was shrink space, extend time. I mean, it's a magic formula. And we all started with Shombi telling us, time is now, place is here. Please put a big round of applause for the speakers. And thank you all for your wonderful attention to all their speeches. Thank you.
Thank you to all our distinguished speakers for sharing their valuable insights. May I request everyone to kindly step forward for a group photograph, please. Also, as a token of appreciation, we would now like to present a small memento to each of our speakers. May I now request our Mukunandan, Vice President, to present the memento to Mr. Ruturaj Kamitkar, Global VP, Strategic Business Development and Marketing, Mr. Masood Malik, MDN Group CEO, Re-Sustainability Limited, Dr. Ashok Khosla, Chairman and Founder, Development Alternatives, Ms. Eva Suara. Okay, sure. Thank you everyone for your presence. With this, we conclude the first session on business case for a circular economy. Let's have a huge round of applause. Thank you. I request everyone to kindly please be seated. We'll be starting the next session in another 5 minutes.
In a world reshaped by geopolitical tensions, tariff wars and shifting power dynamics, trust has become the cornerstone of economic strategy. Amid global realignments, India emerges as a beacon